Welcome everybody to our closing celebration and student awards ceremony. I'm glad you can make it. My name is Edward Tall. I'm from the Department of Biology, and so I just wanted to quickly state, what had happened during the past week with Petersheim. I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but a year later, it seems like just last month we did this. A whole year has passed, and it was for me. It was a very fast year. It's not a good year, but it was a fast year. And I don't know who else might feel the same way. But there was no shortage of things to do, and no shortage of things that got done. We had in biology, for example, we had our biosymposium. We had over 70 abstracts, 70 posters. Was more than we had in many years. So the productivity and the activity that people were engaging in is just continues on, and it was so great to see. And so what I wanted to do now was to just, open up this ceremony with the idea and the theme of taking a breath and feeling good about what we did, about what you accomplished, right? And that's kind of what this is about. And hearing from the works of some of our students who are going to be recognized today in this meeting for some of the exceptional work that they have done. So what I want to do first is I want to introduce Reverend Dr. Forrest Pritchett. So Dr. Forrest Pritchett, he is, in case you don't know, he's many things. He's does many things. Director of the Special Projects in Freshman Studies. He's the director of the Martin Luther King Jr. Leadership Program. He's an instructor, he's a mentor, he's a civil rights activist, and he's been instructing and mentoring students here for over 40 years. He's received numerous awards throughout his career, and he just continues to serve and to achieve. And just before we started this meeting, I heard him say how this ceremony that we're doing right now is his 5th meeting for the day today. That just goes to show you how very active, very busy, and very involved Reverend Forrest Pritchett is. And so we're asking him if he would lead us in an opening prayer. Reverend?
By all means, Dr. Tall. As a matter of fact, on that long list of items, I think my most current position was not reflected, but that happens because it's the most current. But I now also serve very humbly as the senior advisor to the Provost, Dr. Passerini, for diversity, equity, and inclusion issues. So I am so pleased that God has bestowed those gifts upon us. Let us all prepare our hearts for this word of prayer. God, we use the breath that Dr. Tall has referenced today. Only you can breathe life into all of us. We use that breath now to honor you in what we do. On this occasion of the 25th anniversary of the Academic Expo of Seton Hall University, named after Dr. Matthew Petersheim, we acknowledge you, God, as the Lord of all learning. You sat in the midst of teachers and students and kings and queens, doctors and lawyers. You heard their words, and you helped to inform all of their conclusions. You encouraged all of us who teach your people. Help us to understand our place as mentors, professors, administrators, as those who should be inspiring excellence in all who hear us and are touched by our actions. May we stand tall as teachers of human dignity and purpose. Give us all the grace to fill the emptiness that any of our students are still feeling as a result of the disruption caused by the virus in the air. But we always know there is hope, even though they may even be experiencing loss. Let us enjoy with you the reward of good person-to-person relationships. Help us to make all whole. And help us with your love and your grace to be the best people we can be. And may you bless Seton Hall University. We ask this prayer in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus the Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Reverend.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay. So next, what I want to do is I want to introduce Dr. Suli Cheng. Dr. Cheng is a faculty in the Department of Biological Sciences. She's also the director of the Institute for Neuroimmune Pharmacology here. I know most of us, probably nearly all of us, know who Dr. Suli Cheng is because she's also very involved with what goes on at Seton Hall. She is the co-chair of the Petersheim committee as well. And I've been in touch with her a lot over these last few days, and that's only over the last few days. And I can imagine how busy she has been all throughout this period, going back several weeks, you know, leading up to this week in this event. So I can say that I know how much and how hard Dr. Suli Cheng works. There was one email that I was CC'd on that she sent out to several faculty, and just to give you an idea, towards the end of her email, she put down her cell phone number, and she says, "I am available 24/7 if you need to contact me." And I thought, well, okay, she doesn't really mean that. I don't think many of us would necessarily offer ourselves to that level, but so I didn't take it literally until I recall that I got an email from her at about 3:45 in the morning, which, you know, she had sent to me. Of course, I was reading this after the sun came up, so, you know, but the timestamp was 3:45 a.m. So made me rethink just how literal she meant 24/7 access to her. Well, whether she meant it literally every hour of the day or not, she no doubt puts many, many hours of every day into the work that she does. And so I'd like to ask her if she would come and provide us with some opening remarks as well, and then to introduce to us our keynote speaker. So Dr. Cheng.
Suli, you're muted. If you want to unmute your microphone.
Yep.
Sorry. Okay. I just said that Dr. Toh, I didn't mean it because I really don't like to sleep myself, so I sleep very little. Okay, it's my great honor to introduce our provost, Dr. Katia Passerini. Dr. Passerini joined Seton Hall when we were entering into the COVID-19 pandemic in June 2020 as a provost and executive vice president. Prior to Seton Hall, Dr. Passerini was the Leslie and William Collins Distinguished Chair and the Dean of the Collins College of Professional Study at St. John University, where she also held a professor appointment in the Division of Computer Science, Mathematics, and Science. From 2003 to 2016, Dr. Passerini was the professor and Herbert Chair of the Management Information System, MIS, and served as Dean of the Albert Dorman Honor College at the New Jersey Institute of Technology, NJIT. She holds an MBA and Ph.D. degree in MIS, Management Information Systems from George Washington University. She worked as a management consultant in the automotive and telecom industry. Dr. Passerini's research focuses on understanding driver of knowledge management, wireless broadband application trend, and computer-supported learning. Dr. Passerini published over 100 peer-reviewed journals and preceding articles, and has received numerous teaching, research, and service recognitions. Immediately following her appointment in the Provost's office at Seton Hall, Dr. Passerini tirelessly engaged in the implementation of the reopening plans. She walked in every single building multiple times to oversee how and where each piece of the sign you can see, walk to the right, up only, down only, wear mask, those kind of signs, where that each piece should be posted to get our campus ready for the student coming back. I remember that Dr. Passerini repeatedly reminded us at the town hall meetings that our student wants to be back on campus. As I mentioned at our opening ceremony on Monday, our restart plan has been a model of many institutions, not because of Dr. Passerini. Dr. Passerini's weekly email has reached the Seton Hall community, are informative and welcoming, and the newsletter from the Provost office are now very refreshing. I could continue discussing what she has done in the past 10 months at Seton Hall, probably take more than 30 minutes, but I'm sure that we want to hear from Dr. Passerini herself in celebrating our great success of 25th anniversary of Petersheim Academic Expedition. Please join me to welcome our Provost, Dr. Katia Passerini.
Thank you, and thank you, Dr. Chang. That's a wonderful introduction. I appreciate you referring to the restart plan, and but that's really a work of our team, our community, our campus. Everyone was there. When I visited the lab, the faculty were there, and I remember everything that was being prepared to really have a great year. And I think we did have a great year. And I'm really delighted that we are concluding this year, and we're here tonight to celebrate this great research event, the 25th anniversary of the Petersheim Expo. And I'm doing this from the Prudential Center, where we're also celebrating, finally, a year later, our class of 2020. So it's really an incredible amount of work, but we're here, and we've been here for the students. We're here with us, and I thank everyone who has worked and put this great expo together to continue this celebration. It's been a difficult year, but your resilience, your hard work, your mentorship of the students have allowed you and the students to continue to do research despite a pandemic that has kept us separated, but it has not defeated our spirit of survival and recovery. After all, we are heading towards our recovery. So our research settings might have changed. We might have also felt zoomed out or teamed out. But nevertheless, your constant and continued work has really helped really walk through the frontiers of innovation on what is possible and really open up new learning. So I thank you for that. And because the Petersheim Expo is about research, I thought that today I will conclude by continuing to talk about research. And in particularly, I want to talk about three things. One is what is research? And bear with me for a little bit. I know that you know, but I want to walk through it again with you. Then I want to discuss a little bit how we measure research. And then finally, what is the research that is worth doing? So we'll cover these three topics. Let me start with what is research. So in preparing for this closing, I had to do some research myself, and I wanted to start where every researcher starts from, a definition. And in this case, it's a definition of research. And to accomplish this task, I really did not do a meta-analysis of all the papers that have been published from year X to year Y. I should have done that. And as a serious researcher, I should have had a very broad scope to avoid the well-known publication bias effect. Or I should have brushed up my Campbell and Stanley 1963 beloved textbook on experimental and quasi-experimental design. And when I saw that task, I said, no, it's too big. So to be honest, I started a little easier. I started my search of the definition of research with the Merriam-Webster dictionary, because after all, it's been around since 1828. So it is a little older than Seton Hall. So I'm going to read you what the dictionary says about research. Research is careful or diligent search. Or research is the collecting of information about a particular subject. Or research is studious inquiry or examination, especially investigation or experimentation aimed at the discovery and interpretation of facts. Revision of accepted theories or laws in the light of new theories and new facts. Or practical application of such new or revised theories or laws. So that's a big definition. So let me break it down a little bit. Investigation or experimentation aimed at the discovery and interpretation of facts. So you see the words there, discovery and interpretation. Our knowledge creation and knowledge organization. The word discovery reminds us that research is about innovation, and such innovation is not necessarily completely new. It could be a remix or reinterpretation of facts, according to the definition. The other piece is revision of accepted theories or laws in the light of new facts. So research is also about accepting that our previously held certainties could actually be wrong. We've seen that over and over in the research field. Thomas Kuhn talked about paradigm shifts, and Karl Popper talked about the principle of falsification. A theory is not scientific if it's not falsifiable. And that is how we mark a distinction between science and non-science. And finally, research could be the practical application of such new or revised theories or laws, what we call knowledge combination and knowledge transfer. So Dr. Nair, in his opening speech, talked a lot about the practical application of new or revised theories. That's a very important definition of research. An actionable new view of knowledge, a view of knowledge application that is very important to many universities, especially those focused on economic development of the communities where we live and beyond those communities. So interestingly, this definition does not leave much space for basic research or a highly theoretical work, but that is possibly embedded in the notion of discovery, so it's still in this definition. So after I finished looking at the Webster Dictionary, I was about to go to our Walsh Library databases and start a more in-depth review. So that could give you a lot of quotes, especially from authorities, right? Because research is validated immediately when you have an authoritative source. The authority of the source is very important. However, I was, as I always do any task, I was with my computer with a cup of coffee next to me or a mug. It depends on the hour of the day. My coffee cup could be very small, espresso cup, or could be a big mug. And so as I was about to enter the search term in the library databases, I looked at my mug and I actually found a definition. I have a lot of those mugs with little phrases. So I looked at my mug and my mug said what research is. And what my mug says is, research is what you do when you do not know what you're doing. And then it actually qualifies that and it says, important research is what you do when you do not know what you're doing and you're being paid for it. So those are supposed to be fun mug, but it actually made me think a little bit about that phrase. Research is what you do when you do not know what you're doing. And I think it's important to remember that research is about discovery. And if you know exactly what you're doing all the times, you will not discover anything. You know that many important discoveries happen as a byproduct of something else. Research is about failing. And Thomas Edison, whose wonderful labs are not too far from here, said it best. I have not failed. I have just found 10,000 ways that don't work. So research is a lot about failures. And in fact, it should be so much about failures than it is about successes, because it takes a lot of trials to come up with good answers. But then this leads me to the second point of our discussion, which is how do we actually measure research? And how do we measure research success? So unfortunately, we measure it in ways that do not really allow for failure and discovery. You already know about the publication bias. Journals tend to publish studies with statistically significant results because nobody really wants to read an article that just confirms the null hypothesis, right? What's the point? And then we have a whole set of indicators, and you can name them: citation indexes, patent citation indexes, journal impact factors, H factor, the H index that you can also divide it by H index 10. And then you have the author network analysis. Both ResearchGate and Microsoft Academic Search try to do that, looking at the number of connectors and influencers to look at the size and the authority of your network, because remember, authority of the source is always important in research. You just need to look at prominent researchers, journal editors, and where their students publish to get a sense of that. So this framework is, of course, different. A measurement framework is different depending on the disciplines. So if you are measuring performances, you will look at where the performance is being held, at which theater, which academic press publishes your book, which scientific community reads your articles or reuses them, et cetera, et cetera. But regardless of the metric, the question is, do all these metrics mean that the higher, the better? Usually it does, right, in those indexes. This is what a lot of metrics tend to do or assume. But do these metrics really encapsulate the value of a piece of research? Or maybe are they encapsulating just its diffusion, which is not the same as value? And you only need to look at the number of views of different videos on YouTube to see that diffusion is not the same as quality. In fact, some of what I would judge, some of the best and most informative videos on YouTube seem to have been watched only by me or by other 3 people, and I'm not really sure that those 3 people is not me connecting from different IP addresses. And as you know from Goodhart's law, when a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure, which is another way of saying, if you pick a specific metric to assess performance, a system to game it will start to emerge. We're seeing this in the publication industry, and we've already seen this in university ranking systems or variation thereof. So this leads me to my third and last point. Which research is worth doing? The one that we measure, but which one? So I need to go back to the definition that we had at the beginning. Research is about discovery. Research is about failing and the risk of failing. And research is about something new and transformational. Research is risky. I do not take too many risks, and I'm guilty as charged. It's easy to say that, more difficult to do it. But Robert Solow is an American economist whose name you might remember. He's still alive. He's worked on the theory of economic growth and the exogenous growth model that is named after him. He's currently Professor Emeritus of Economics at MIT, and he has been a professor there since 1949. Solow says, I think the way people do economics today is too much governed by the availability of data. A lot of the articles that I see written in journals seem to exist not because there is a problem here that needs to be solved or a puzzle that needs to be explained, but because they have come upon this enormous bunch of data and figure that these data have to include the answer to some questions. But then he adds, this is natural given the sheer amount of data and the pressure to publish it. And you know, we call that pressure the publisher perish phenomenon. So I wish to all the participants here, especially those who are still in the publisher perish stage of their research, or students who are just starting that stage or wish to start it in the future, I wish you to become a little bit more like Solow. And you might already be like Solow, And because if you think about what he said, that's something that you might already be doing. Solo also said, I would rather teach a really bright student than write a mildly interesting paper. Solo's evaluation of his own work is consistent with his view of the discipline as a whole. Good research starts with meaningful unanswered questions. So which research is worth doing? The one that we do when we focus on an unanswered question, the one that is transformative, the one that we do when we mentor the next generation of researchers, the students, because that's the research that will just change their lives and will in turn enrich our lives because of our knowledge sharing and our paying it forward. And that's research worth doing. And I thank you for doing just that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Passerini. That was very, very good talk. I enjoyed hearing that, and I understand that you have heavy obligations going on today. I know, so I really appreciate. We really appreciate you taking time out to to be with us here at this celebration. So thank you so much again.
My pleasure.
All right. So next we get to hear from some of these researchers, some of these student researchers. And so what I've asked the organizers of the different events that have been going on during Petersheim Week to identify what they feel are the most significant pieces of work that have been offered by students, presented by students during the week, and to forward me their information so that we can have them here and that they can introduce themselves and just tell us a little bit about their work in like literally a minute. And so I'm going to call on you, and I'm going to do this in no particular order. And for you students, just make sure your mic is on. State your name and the year, whether you're junior or senior, and tell us your major, and then go ahead and tell us what you did, what you found, what you learned from it. Okay. So I'm going to start. Our first student is going to be Brian Summerow.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Brian Summerow. I am a senior, a finance and IT major, and I'm representing the Brownson Speech and Debate team. So we were able to hold a session during this amazing week of research and academics. And some of the cool things that we got to highlight during our presentation were how we as a team promote messages of advocacy. We do performances of literature, we have messages of interest, and we want to spread awareness to audiences of issues that a lot of times are not often brought up. So we have a couple of different genres that we work with, specifically research-based. So we've done research on artificial intelligence, life in outer space. We even performed an in-depth analysis of the impact of Indian music and culture, and we even did a speech on publication bias, as Dr. Passerini mentioned. So we've had some great research-based activities this year, but specifically in terms of advocacy, we've advocated for groups like the deaf community. We've looked at issues like sexual assault in the workplace, sexual harassment for vulnerable, underprivileged populations, social justice, all in the vein of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we research to identify the problems, the causes, and the effects of these issues, and we find solutions, and we speak out against these issues, trying to promote inclusivity and trying to make real change. So while many students keep these messages within the realm of competition, we promise to bring our messages outward. And so that was one of the amazing goals that we were able to accomplish by participating in this expo, and hopefully we can continue to do that by bringing our messages of advocacy to as many audiences as we can.
Wow. Okay. Thank you so much. Boy. Next is going to be Elisa Douglas.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Elisa Douglas, and I'm from the School of Health and Medical Sciences, Ph.D. in Health Sciences program. And I will be graduating in May So this is my final semester. So in about 20 days time will be my graduation. My poster presentation was based on the results of my dissertation study on the topic, understanding African Americans' beliefs, knowledge, attitudes, and behaviors regarding high blood pressure and their use of home remedies as treatment. I decided to conduct my study on this topic because a few years ago, my dad died suddenly from complications due to high blood pressure a few hours after he had taken his blood pressure medication. So from my literature review, I found out that African Americans have the highest prevalence of high blood pressure in the United States, but they also have the lowest blood pressure control rates out of any major race or ethnic group. And only 45% of those who use prescription medicine are actually able to attain blood pressure control. So I realized that there are definitely the need for more effective treatment options for high blood pressure in this population. So my study was a mixed methods study, so I collected both qualitative and quantitative data, and my sample size was 254 African Americans with and without high blood pressure. So my results indicated that African Americans are more willing to use home remedies as a treatment for high blood pressure rather than as a preventative measure against the same. And this showed me that high blood pressure diagnosis is a game changer that affects African Americans' behavior regarding the use of home remedies as well as their lifestyle habits. So 231 participants of the study stated that they have at least one blood relative who has high blood pressure, which again shows just how prevalent this condition is in this population. So it was also found that African Americans prefer to use home remedies as a complement to prescription medicine rather than as an alternative to the same. 77% of the sample stated that they would be willing to use home remedies if their doctors recommended it. And based on those results, my recommendations were that healthcare professionals receive formal education on holistic approaches to treating high blood pressure, either during medical training or as a refresher course, and also that African Americans also receive general education about high blood pressure, especially regarding its effects and its severity, in the hopes that this will lead them to use or be more willing to use home remedies, including adopting healthier lifestyle habits, so that they will reduce their risk of diagnosis. As the saying goes, prevention is better than cure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Okay. All right. The next will be a group of authors. It's Elena, Keegan, and Charles. If we were doing this live, I would call all three of you up to the microphone in the lecture hall, and we would hear from all three of you. So what I recommend is that all three of you basically turn your cameras on and mics on, and just take turns introducing yourselves, and then maybe you can kind of share the experience with us. Okay.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi. My name is Keegan France. I am a junior here at Seton Hall, and I'm an international relations major in the School of Diplomacy. And my group was with Charles McGarry and Elena Soyson, and we did a project on water in Lebanon and getting clean water to people in Beirut specifically. So Charles here.
Yeah, so my name is Charles McGarry. I'm currently a junior in the School of Diplomacy. I'm also studying economics and a German minor. And like kind of what Keegan was saying, and I know Elena's going to talk a little bit more about it really briefly. We just talked and did some research on water security in Beirut, specifically in Lebanon. And we found that there's a lot of interesting things to look into in that region specifically. So, and it's an honor to be here as well. So.
Hi, my name is Elena Soisson. I'm also a junior in the diplomacy school, double majoring in economics and minoring in Arabic. And I'll get into like the more nitty-gritty stuff. So we did this actually for a class project. We were tasked with looking at how to help a community fulfill one of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And in looking at Lebanon, they're experiencing one of the worst economic crises ever. It's worse than Yemen and it's worse than Syria on the scale of inflation and unemployment. More than half the population is living in poverty, and over 60% of the urban population lives in slums. So we decided to focus on specifically the slums of Beirut and those neighborhoods. And we found that although most of these homes do have the infrastructure for running water, less than 15% of the citizens actually use their tap water. So instead, you have impoverished people. More than half their population lives in poverty. 25% of them live in extreme poverty, which the World Bank defines as less than $1.90 a day. And you have these people paying for bottled water with their day's wage. So we looked more into that problem and found that they're getting their water from dirty wells, that it's salty, it's sandy water, and they still have to pay for it, and it's not always a consistent supply. So we looked more into what other international organizations have tried to do, and we found that the World Bank was actually going to fund a dam on the Bisri River, which is about 21 miles away from Beirut, but decided to cancel the project after protests and corruption within the government of Beirut. We did find, however, that the UN has utilized solar-powered pumps in other places in Beirut for irrigation and township supply. So we decided that our project was going to focus on trying to get water from the same river that the World Bank was going to use, the Bisri River, about 21 miles away, and we were going to use solar-powered pumps that were more cost-effective for an impoverished nation like Lebanon, and have a surface pump the water out of the river, purify it, and store it in tanks, where eventually we could build the infrastructure to get pipes to the slums of Beirut. But in the meantime, we figured that we would apply the same shuttle system that is currently in place. However, now this would be clean water with a consistent supply. In conjunction with that, we were going to use chlorine tablets, which are less than a cent a piece, that people could use so they feel more secure with their water, because we found that this really wasn't a supply issue. It was more that people distrusted the water source and its purification. So we figured that if we gave them a consistent supply and we gave them the tablets in conjunction with these pumps, they would feel more comfortable drinking the water, and hopefully we could mediate that distrust in the future. And we look forward to possibly seeing this implemented, but for now, that's what we found in our research.
Thank you very much. Okay. Next, I want to call on Jennifer Orth.
Yes, hello. Can y'all see me?
Can't see you. Can hear you. Can't
Okay,
see.
well, okay. Is that better? Okay, sounds great. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jennifer Orth. I'm a sophomore biochemistry and philosophy student in the College of Arts and Sciences. My presentation for Petersheim was titled A Return of the Yellow Peril Beast, and I began my presentation with a poem about the hypocrisy that lays in the Western outlook of East Asians. I thought it was a beautiful way to frame an issue that is currently breaking the Asian community right now. So with the rise of COVID-19, there has been a stark increase of anti-Asian hate crimes. I remember one statistic I listed. In 2020 alone, there was an increase of 717% in Toronto of anti-Asian hate crimes. And I wanted to evaluate this issue through not only like the social contracts lens of how it affects civil society, but also collective trauma of how, the entire world is currently experiencing a collective trauma of a pandemic. However, East Asians are also experiencing an additional collective trauma of racism, a second pandemic. So my presentation was a form of education, of needing to express that this is an issue. Like for the 16-year-old yesterday in Seattle, he was shot in his own home, or like Vika, who was physically attacked last year, and there was video evidence. And it's just an awful situation for all Asians around. So my presentation was really just a tribute to all Asians who had to question their identity, whether through collective trauma, verbal assault, or physical attack, because our world needs to stop viewing us as a virus, as a threat, or as something that is less than human, and instead view us as people, right, within civil society. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next will be Danielle Mirage.
Hello, everyone. Can everyone hear me? My name is Danielle Mirage, and I am a microbiology graduate student working with Dr. Chu. So this year, my Petersheim project was a part of the bioinformatics omics project, where I was able to use IPA in order to link chronic anatoxin A exposure to the onset of the neurodegenerative disease amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. I also want to extend my thank you to Dr. Chu, my mentor, and also to my lab members, and also to the members of the Petersheim committee. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Danielle. Okay. Next is going to be two co-authors here, Zachary and Adrian.
Hi, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. My name is Adrian Beral. I worked with Zach Desanza in Dr. Gantar's lab, and we did our project on finding the oncogenic role of aurora kinase C in mitotic cells. We chose to research aurora kinase C because it is normally only expressed in cells, meiotic cells. However, in many cancer cells, there is a large overexpression of it is linked to increased metastasis, lower survivability, and many other factors that kind of point to it as a potential oncogene. So it made it a very compelling protein or a gene to research.
Good afternoon, everyone.
And
hello. Oh, sorry. Hey, my name is Zach Desanza. I'm a senior biology student as well, working with Adrian on this project. And I'm going to kind of just get into a little bit of the actual lab work that we had done. So what we had done was we were able to identify aurora kinase C in these cell lines, these cancer cell lines, and then we were able to use CRISPR to knock it out. So then with these two cell lines, one with and one without aurora kinase C, we were able to perform a number of tests. And we also found a strong connection between aurora kinase C and another gene called collagen 1A1, which is found in a lot of different cancers to enhance their able to metastasize and migrate. So we were able to show that without the expression of aurora kinase C, there was no expression of the collagen 1A1, and that explained why there was such a big difference in the amount that the cells were able to move and metastasize. So what this ended up being was we were able to find that aurora kinase C was controlling the cell's ability to form tumors in other areas of the body, which can lead to a very easy therapeutic target for cancers and without harming any other cells in the body, since it was only found in cancer cells and in meiosis.
Okay, very good. Thank you both. Thank you both for that. Okay. Next, we have Catherine Dolan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Catherine Dolan. I'm a senior, and I'm double majoring in social work and communication. So the 13 grand challenges of social work encourage interdisciplinary collaboration to address some of society's most pressing social justice issues. So over the course of this semester, social work seniors have researched and provided policy recommendations for initiatives like ending family violence, eradicating social isolation, and promoting smart decarceration. So the grand challenge that I focused on this semester is called Achieve Equal Opportunity and Justice. So after delving into a topic like this, it becomes very obvious very quickly that there's systems and policies in place that marginalize communities. Now, if we expect people to advance through society, we first have to dismantle barriers. And one of those barriers is the school to prison pipeline. So after getting into some deep research on this topic, it also becomes obvious that students' biopsychosocial needs are not being considered enough when it comes to punishment in schools. So things like zero tolerance policies, an increase in police presence in schools, a disproportionate suspension and expulsion rate, those are just some of the contributing factors to the pipeline. And it's essential for multiculturalism and classroom management to be integrated and highlighted into educator and administrator training to promote that efficient communication that's needed with students of all backgrounds. So, rather than wait for problematic behavior to arise, administrators and counselors should be integrating preventative measures that really work towards keeping students in school and out of the criminal justice system so that they can learn and grow. And that's really the basis of my research for the Achieve Equal Opportunity and Justice Grand Challenge. I've learned so much from my classmates and my professor in our discussions every week, and I encourage all of you here to check out the Grand Challenge posters from the students to learn more about them, because solving these social justice issues is really all of our responsibility. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. Okay. Next we have Brooke Richards.
Hi everyone, my name is Brooke Richards. I'm a sophomore in the sophomore physics major in the dual degree engineering program. And the research I presented this week was a project that my advisor, Dr. Wong, gave me, and I was able to use a simulation software to see how the efficiency of a solar cell can be affected by changing different parameters of the cell itself, such as the thickness of the layers and the doping levels of the layers. So I was very excited to do this, and the results showed me maximum efficiency levels, and then these results will also help me in future projects to eventually create a better and more efficient solar cell.
Great, thank you. Next is Christina Ventura.
Hello?
Yep, we hear you.
Okay, and see me?
Yep.
Okay, yes. So as you said, my name is Christina Ventura. I am a PhD candidate in my third year in the Department of Chemistry and Biochemistry. I'm doing research under the supervision of Dr. Gregory Weidman, and we like to call ourselves the 3B Lab, which stands for Biochemistry, Biophysics, and Biomaterials. And the presentation that I have done on Tuesday is entitled Photomelatin, a photoisomerizable membrane active peptide. So my lab does a lot of research trying to combat antimicrobial resistance. And so what we did in this project is we took a naturally occurring peptide called melittin, which is the key component of bee venom, and we sought to learn more about one of the amino acids in the peptide sequence that is critical for its function, specifically proline. And in order to study the proline, we replaced the proline with a photoactive molecule called azobenzene. And when we shine light on the peptide, the azobenzene isomerizes from a trans isomer to a cis isomer, and we're able to control the activity of the peptide with light. So what we found is that both isomers, while not as easy as we thought to distinguish from each other, because we have, interestingly enough, the less stable isomer is more prevalent than the more stable isomer. So we have to do further studies on that. But we do find differences between the two isomers depending on concentration and time that these peptides are incubated with cell membranes. So I probably should have said this initially, but these membrane active peptides, what they do is they bind to the cell membrane and they create pores and they cause leakage of the inside of the cell to come out. And eventually, or evidently, if you have a single cell organism and the insides of the cell are leaking out, and you have cell death. So they work as good antimicrobials, and that's my spiel. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay. Next is Thomas.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Thomas, just can't see you.
Oh.
All right, that's better.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tom Stace. I'm in my junior year as a chem major, and as part of Dr. Murphy's research group, in order to promote the Seton Hall Green Chemistry Initiative, we did research into the synthesis and characterization of biodiesel using reefer algae as a sustainable triglyceride source. It's a fact that our fossil fuel reserves are finite and that our world is facing the problem of the depletion of our oil reserves. Moreover, large-scale burning of fossil fuels to meet our ever-rising energy demands is literally killing our planet through pollution and global warming. Our research group is not arguing that biodiesel is the solution to all these problems that we're facing, but we're definitely convinced that biodiesel is one of the solutions to those challenges. Biodiesel offers a more environment-friendly and renewable energy source to meet our modern world's immense energy demands. So the optimization of production of biodiesel is necessary to allow us to eventually make that full transition to renewable and environment-friendly energy sources. And that's why research in this area is so important.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, next we have Mary Nowak.
Hi, my name is Mary Nowak, and I'm a senior biology and Catholic studies double major with a minor in chemistry. This semester, I collaborated with Cedra Alabed, Dr. Gantar, and Dr. Chang to study the molecular connections between severe COVID-19 and stage 1 to 2 non-small cell lung cancer via the T lymphocyte exhaustion pathway. Individuals with severe COVID-19 can experience cytokine storms, which can give way to T lymphocyte exhaustion. T lymphocytes are important in the body's immune response, and exhaustion leads to a characteristic loss of function. When this happens, immune cells cannot do their job well. Using IPA, we identified the molecules from both severe COVID-19 and stage 1 to 2 non-small cell lung cancer that occurred within the T lymphocyte exhaustion pathway. What we found was that certain molecules from COVID-19 upregulated the non-small cell lung cancer biomarkers KRAS, CD274, and PDCD1 within this pathway. These findings suggest a potential link between non-small cell lung cancer and severe COVID-19, which may be of importance in biomarker testing, since therapies exist to treat non-small cell lung cancer that expresses some of these biomarkers, including immune checkpoint inhibitor therapies. These immune therapies attempt to restore immune function to fight cancer. Confirming this connection could provide clinical indications for biomarker testing, which will allow patients to pursue targeted treatments that may improve overall survival. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Elizabeth.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Puskis. I am a junior financial mathematics major in the Math and Computer Science department. This past year, I've been working with Dr. Luttrell, as well as a couple individuals and a professor from Stevens Institute of Technology, and we put together and have been working on research that our title is Short-Term Regime Switching Option Pricing. And that's basically a fancy way of saying that we're looking into a specific financial derivative that and comparing and approaching a model, an industry used model, in a different way and seeing if we could potentially predict the prices better than how they're currently pricing these securities. I hope that was that made sense, everyone. But thank you all for being here today, and have a good one.
Thank you. Okay. Next we have Ryan Camacho.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. So my name is Ryan Camacho. I'm currently a senior here at Seton Hall, and I am a biology major with a chemistry minor. So my presentation was with the Department of Biological Sciences at Seton Hall University. And really quickly, I want to thank my collaborators, which is Tanvi Patel, an undergraduate here at Seton Hall, and then Dr. Heping Zhao and Dr. Suli Chang, especially Dr. Chang, because she served as my mentor and just gave us constant support during the senior seminar capstone project. So thank you. And our presentation was titled A Network Meta-Analysis of COVID-19 Modulation of the Amyloid Precursor Protein in the Brain Endothelium. So we focused, the whole class really focused on exploring some of the current unanswered questions regarding COVID-19. So there's a lot of data right now out there with COVID-19, either genetic profiles or just kind of things that doctors have seen. And although we're not really in a laboratory, even from our computers, we're still able to hypothesize stuff and test stuff, especially with bioinformatics software. That's what we kind of did. And for our specific presentation, we focused on trying to explore the long-term cerebral effects of COVID-19 by looking at disease biomarkers like APP, which can lead to Alzheimer's. So we were able to study this using QIAGEN's IPA, which is, like I said, a powerful bioinformatics tool. We were able to analyze and interpret different types of omics data within the context of biological systems. So for the project, we utilized real-world genetic profiles from brain endothelium following a SARS-CoV-2 attachment, and we used it as a launching pad in the IPA bioinformatics software. Using the software, we were able to find novel connections and pathways, predict downstream consequences of the SARS-CoV-2 attachment, and also identify the mechanisms that explain the downstream effects of the different disease biomarkers. So for example, when we looked at 12 different genes that were upregulated following the SARS-CoV-2 attachment in the brain endothelium, it actually led to a buildup of APP, and this protein buildup in the brain endothelium can lead to increased stroke prevalence and also increased Alzheimer's prevalence. So the whole idea of using bioinformatics tool, which was provided by Seton Hall, I think I forgot to say that, is that it's very exciting because we're able to use actual real-world genetic kind of changes or genetic data, like how we did with the SARS-CoV-2 attachment to the brain endothelia, and find new predictions or hypotheses. And these predictions and hypotheses can automatically be transferred to the millions of people right now that actually have COVID-19 and might actually have the exact same pathways that we hypothesized and predicted. And regardless of that, it could also kind of help guide current researchers that might want to explore how COVID-19 affects patients. So it was really exciting.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. Okay. Next, Atla Fortner.
Hi, sorry, I'm here.
Okay.
Can you guys see me?
You're good.
Okay. So hi, everyone. My name is Atla Fortner, and I'm a senior studying psychology and social work within the School of Arts and Sciences. And as part of my honors thesis, I'm working with Dr. Kelly Getter on a study that compares the quality of open educational resources, otherwise known as OERs, to commercial textbooks in terms of student learning. And this was motivated by an attempt to fill a gap in current OER efficacy research. And as of right now, my analysis shows that there's no significant difference, which means that college students can essentially have access to equal quality textbooks for free. And that has obvious implications for student savings and the higher educational world. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next is Matteo.
Matteo, you're muted.
Hello, sorry. It always does that. So my name is Matteo Telesca, and I'm a senior biology student with a psychology minor, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to have done my project through the senior biology seminar course. And I just want to quickly thank my collaborators, Elisa Caradana, Cedra Alabed, Tanvi Patel, and of course, Dr. Suli Chang. So the title of my project was a pathway analysis of COVID-19 modulation of ACE2 leading to Alzheimer's disease via overlapping molecules. And I used the Ingenuity pathway analysis software to conduct an in silico study to find a connection between Alzheimer's disease, COVID-19, and ACE2. And using the IPA tools, I was able to find 8 overlapping molecules between COVID-19, ACE2, and Alzheimer's disease, the most important ones being tumor necrosis factor, interleukin-1 beta, and albumin. And the most important finding from this study was that if ACE2 is upregulated, we see that Alzheimer's disease and COVID-19 are activated. So because COVID-19 uses ACE2 to infect human cells as a receptor and ACE2 is overexpressed in Alzheimer's disease, this study led me to the results that if there's a viral infection of COVID-19 and the ACE2 is internalized, it thereby renders a patient more likely to develop Alzheimer's disease. So yes, that's it. Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. And again, thank you, Dr. Chang.
Great, thank you. Okay, there are some students who would have trouble making it to this. I wanted to check in and see if they're here. Mary Claire Colombo, are you here? I don't see you in the list, so I'm just checking if maybe you're logged in under a different name. No. And Nicole Oppenheimer, are you here? Shihu Ma, are you here? Okay, well, some of you obviously couldn't make it, and that's okay. So I just want to then thank everybody for sharing their work with us. It's really, I just think it's really great to be able to capture these different fields of research that are going on, in one sitting like this. It's just refreshing to hear what people are getting involved with. So I want to thank every one of you. Students who have worked so hard to accomplish what you have accomplished and likely to continue learning, continue researching as you move on in your educational career and eventual career, whatever it is you end up going into. All right. So at this point, I want to introduce Dr. Jose Lopez to see if he has any closing comments that he would like to make. Dr. Lopez is faculty in the Department of Physics, and in addition to all the work that he does there and the publications and the research that he has, renowned research there, Dr. Lopez is also a co-chair of the Petersheim Exposition as well, along with Dr. Chang. And like Dr. Chang, Dr. Lopez works very hard, and from what I understand, I believe from Dr. Chang's score, she has Dr. Lopez ahead of her in terms of number of Petersheim events that he attends virtually. So I guess when the opposition is telling you you're in the lead, I guess you really are in the lead. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Lopez for any closing remarks he may want to share.
Thank you, Dr. Tall, once again for your wonderful Master of Ceremonies work that you've done here for the closing ceremony. And for the record, Dr. Chang is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I know this because we've spoken at odd hours in the night about certain matters, usually about the expo. So that is absolutely true. That is a known fact. I'd like to first just mention a little bit about the award that all of you have gotten. I first want to start by saying, wow. Every year, I mean, it gets more and more impressive. I mean, this is 25 years that we've been running this event at the university. It's part of our institutional culture. And it's amazing the amount of work that we've been doing. It was only about, sadly to say, only about 5 years ago that the committee started to discuss how can we further promote the work that is being presented during the Petersheim week by all of our students. So we came up with the idea of awarding a research award that would allow you to go out and present at professional conferences or present, I guess, virtual conferences these days also. And the award that you're all receiving is $1,000 for travel. So it's a reimbursement for $1,000. So up to $1,000 you can use to go to a professional conference, pay for the registration fee, travel fee, whatever housing fee, accommodation fees, airfare, whatever is necessary there, or of course nowadays the virtual conference. Now what you've noticed, unfortunately, Seton Hall does not have an infinite endowment. It's not infinity, our endowment. So we are restricted in the amount of awards that we can give. And what many of our event organizers do is they split up the awards. So in many cases, the award, the $1,000 per event is split up. So we wish that you will use these funds to not only continue your work, but go out and present it to the world, because it's wonderful you're sharing it within our learning community, but we want you to share it with the world and put out your ideas and get them to move on, get them to change the world and change society. The other kind of things that come to my mind is last year during the closing ceremony, when I was asked to give some closing remarks, I gave everybody the advice to think a little bit about one of my favorite thinkers. Being a physicist is Isaac Newton, who is one of the founding fathers of mechanics, classical mechanics, the study of motion. And the same thing that has happened to all of us, or has happened to you as students, happened to him in 1665. He was studying at the University of Cambridge, and the Great Plague hit London, that general region of the world, and the university had to make a crucial decision to close down the campus and send all the students home. So Isaac Newton went to his family farm, which was about 60 miles or so outside of modern-day London, and he spent about 2 years in solitude, thinking, working. He didn't forget what he learned at the university. He just kept working on it further. There's, of course, the famous story that probably many of you have heard years ago in grade school when you were learning about science, of Isaac Newton sitting under, resting and thinking under an apple tree when an apple hit him in the head, and he had that eureka moment where he said, "Oh, gravity," and he discovered gravity. So I encouraged everyone at the time to spend what was possibly going to be a long period of time, as I figured, in solitude, to spend your time doing what Isaac Newton did and improving yourselves and thinking big ideas and doing tremendous research. And what I have to report is a year later is amazing. I mean, we saw the result this year. Over 200 abstracts were submitted this year. We had over 40 events that happened throughout this week. I mean, super impressive. Every year I get invited to a lot of local universities, invite me to their research day. You know, New Jersey Institute of Technology has a research day, Stevens Institute of Technology, Princeton University. The Stevens one happens to be today, but I'm attending our event here. And they have a day. We have an entire week where we celebrate your scholarship and the work that you do. The other reflection I had at the time was also, let's all get familiar with this technology, this information technology of meeting virtually like this. And at the time, a lot of people still forget to turn on their mics or their cameras or different things. But as we can see clearly now, everybody's become so proficient at communicating this way. And at the time, I was really worried that we would lose the human connection, the ability to communicate our ideas and our results. And at least from my perspective, what I've seen in my courses, when I've seen interacting with the students that do research with me, collaborators, I think it's working very well. One thing we can say about the human species and humanity is the resilience of humanity. And we found ways to adapt, to work, to thrive, to come up with even tremendous new ideas through this. I mean, we were, as a society, we were able to figure out how to put vaccines together in less than a year, when the usual time to put a vaccine tends to be about 3 to 5 years. So it's incredible what we've been able to do through there. So as I always mention to my students, if there's a will, there's a way. And I think that was clearly demonstrated by all humanity and clearly demonstrated by the presenters this week at Petersheim. I'd like to further thank the Expo Steering Committee, which is one of the largest committees at the university. We have over 60 members of the university that include everybody from secretaries and staff, union representatives at the university, to administration, to vice provosts and deans, and of course faculty and students, graduate students, undergraduate students. So we have a tremendous representation. We would not be able to run all of these 40 different events that happened this week without all of the work, all the hard work, and all the dedication that everybody has put together. So I'd like to thank all of the organizers, all of the participants, and thank you for all of the work that you've done this week. My final thought is we're closing out another successful Petersheim. This is the 25th annual installment. I mean, think about that. It's a quarter century that we've been doing this at the university. And I am hoping that we continue doing this for another quarter century and for centuries to come as Seton Hall continues to prosper forward. So thank you all very much for participating. And I look forward to seeing everybody again next year. And please go out to the world virtually or physically and present your work and your ideas and get them out there and help change the world. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Lopez. Wow. So one more time, we can take a breath as Dr. Lopez reminds us of all that was accomplished during this week. It's just wonderful. It's wonderful to hear. So I want to thank everybody for attending. I want to thank all the people of the Petersheim Steering Committee who have worked so hard. And I also want to thank a couple of people who helped run this show, basically Mike Supios, Brooke Loxley, and Milan Stanek, who's also helping us out with making this smooth, making this run like Dr. Lopez was saying. We're connecting really well virtually, and you know, they have so much to do with it. So thank you guys very much for all that you do. Thank you to everybody who spoke today.
Thanks, Katia, for multitasking.
Thank you, Dr. Passerini.
Thank you.
And
Thank
everybody.
you. This was
This concludes our ceremony. Yes. So now we can spend time waving to each other and saying saying hello and goodbye and
congratulations.
Those things we like to do.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for being with us, Dr. Katia.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being at two places at the same time.
Yeah, multitasking.
That's great. That's great, everybody.
Thank you so very much.
Bye-bye.